Welcome back to another episode of the Wisconsin Investor. I am your host, Corey Raymond, and I have another amazing couple that we're going to be featuring on today's podcast. But before we get into that, I'm going to give a little commercial here for Wisconsin Discount Properties, who sponsors this show. And what I like to do on these, if you've been listening lately, is feature a deal that we've recently had and just hopefully give you some FOMO if you didn't buy it, to get you off the couch and into the game. And so we recently had a deal up in Marinette, Wisconsin, which I jokingly say now is about to double in value after our president said they're going to be bringing shipbuilding back and make shipbuilding great again. I wrote a little chat GPT article that said home prices in Marinette double overnight based on that. But all joking aside, we did have a great deal. Nobody bought it. So we put it back out to the list as a buy it now deal, which basically means if you're the first one to bring us the number that we put in that email, we will sell it to you as long as you have the appropriate funds. And we did. We had a young fellow come in. He was partnering with a veteran on the deal. We had dropped the price down a little bit. I just got word from them. They're going to be making over $50,000 on this flip up in Marinette, Wisconsin. So I say all that to say, hey, there's some great deals every single week that hit your inbox that get passed on by tons of people. Over 2,000 people are on this buyer's list, and only one person offered on this deal, and they're going to make $50,000 on it. So you can get on that list by going to wisconsindiscountproperties.com, plug your information in, and you'll start getting those emails every single Monday morning and a little text message to tell you to check the email. With that, let's get into today's episode. I have Matt and Catie Fihn on the episode. What's up, guys? How you doing?
How are you?
Doing great. Where are you guys based out of?
Washington.
Port Washington, right?
Port Washington. Yeah,
Port
it's
Washington.
halfway between Milwaukee and Sheboygan. We're right between the two.
Awesome. Very cool. And you guys got started in this game not that long ago. Tell everybody a little bit about when you got started, how you got started, and where things are at today for you.
It's not out of here. So we've been in the game since the spring of 2022.
Awesome.
We actually got our start in the real estate game from a friend of mine. So we just moved out to Port Washington in the fall of 2021.
Oh, okay.
And right off the bat, I made a friend out here who was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
And we had a play date, and she was just telling me about her business. And I said, okay, what do you do? Because she was kind of texting a little bit here and there while we were having our play date. And she was just talking about how she's a real estate investor. And I said, oh, okay. And she said it was, the most wonderful thing. She did say it's a lot of work. It's, it can be stressful. It's got its ups and downs, but it's something that had been allowing her to be a stay-at-home mom. Well, during this time, my husband and I, Matt, had already been talking about how—
Not her previous husband.
Not the previous husband, the one I've been with this whole time.
Perfect.
But,
okay, good.
This guy right here.
Awesome.
So, that really spoke to me, because we had been talking for a long time about how, as much as I've always liked the job that I've had and the employer that I've had, I want to be home with our kids. We've got 2 little kids, and I've been trying to figure out what I could do to be at home with them.
Yeah.
So we decided to go for it. We started flipping houses in 2022. We started acquiring rental properties in 2023, and now it's just taken off. And then I'll let Matt explain how it's benefited him.
Yeah, I was able to quit my W-2 2 years ago.
Nice.
And it's been about 2 years.
Okay.
And then I became the stay-at-home dad, so to speak. So I was taking care of the kids and then running the business. I guess you could say about 100 or 80% of the time.
Okay.
Kate would have about 20% of doing the behind the scenes, like the cutting the checks and running the numbers and stuff like that, where I would go and see the houses.
Okay.
And determine the rehab and things like that. But also having 2 little kids, I was a stay-at-home dad, teaching them, getting them out for play dates, taking them to museums, zoos. The homeschooling community out in Ozaukee County is really nice too.
Nice.
So there's a big group of people that have classes formed. So it was really up to me to get to all those things, plus running this business by myself, so to speak. So it's been a challenge and a tough road, but it's been a great road. I cannot imagine waking up and being to work at a certain time or leaving at a certain time or having to delegate your 3 weeks of vacation.
Yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore. And I get the benefit of hanging out with the two coolest people in the world, and who I think are the two coolest people in the world, every day, and I get to see them grow. And then, it's been awesome. I could not have planned it any better or expected anything better. It's been great.
That's awesome, man. Now you said the two coolest people, but we haven't been hanging out every day. I'm kind of confused by that.
That might change.
Okay. Maybe I can squeeze my way in there in the third or fourth, maybe behind Catie. Okay.
I'll have to say the three coolest people then.
There you go. Exactly. What did you do? What was your W-2 prior, Matt?
So I was an account manager for Thermo Fisher Scientific.
Oh, okay.
And they were so during the COVID vaccination, so during the COVID phase, they were the sole maker of all the COVID vaccinations for the world.
Oh my goodness.
They're based on the east side of Milwaukee.
Okay.
I worked second shift, so I had I guess like more of like the Asian part of the country. Because they were at the same time zone that I was when I was working.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting job. It was cool just seeing everything, and it wasn't a bad place to work. It was a nice place to work. The benefits and the little, you get free lunches, and I think I got 4 weeks of vacation there, which is a lot more than some people get at their W-2s.
For sure.
They were pretty lenient on stuff with kids and things like that. And I worked second shift, like I said, and I had the entire place to myself. No one else worked second shift.
Oh my goodness.
I was there by myself. So it was pretty nice. Like I could blast music and work and answer phone calls when I needed. So it was a nice place. But when we got this opportunity, when we got our first flip, I was still working. So I was managing the flip, running materials over to this place while watching them, taking a nap, getting up, going to work until 11 o'clock, getting up at like 5 or 6, and then taking care of them, because then she would go to work. So it was a brutal schedule for 2 years. Was it 2 years, something like that?
And at that point, our kids
they were babies.
They were
essentially
3 and 1. Yeah, because you quit in the fall of 22, so they were 3 and 1. No, 4 and 2. 4 and 2.
Yeah, 4 and 2.
Okay. Yeah, they need you at that age. Yeah, for sure.
So it was a brutal schedule. And then I think we got our first one done, and then we got our second one in
December.
Where was that one at? Bayside. And that was a really big remodel too.
Okay.
And then I think we got that one. Was that one halfway done when I quit?
We had not closed on that one yet. We got the one right after you quit.
Okay. Yeah, so it was pretty shortly after our first flip, and then I put in my notice, and kind of like I don't think they were very happy that I did, because I was the only one that wanted to go. So I got some attitude and all that other stuff, but I was kind of expecting that was going to happen, just because no one else wanted to work that shift. But
That's right.
Still the best move we made.
It is what it is.
Yeah. One of a couple points I want to go back to here. I did something similar. So I used to work for a company that sold like athletic recruiting packages to high school athletes. So I would have to do my pre-work in the morning for my appointments for the evening. And then I had to do all these calls with people, like 4 p.m. I would start until like I'd do Hawaii calls at midnight. Right. And so it's 4 till midnight. So I had like a 3-hour window in the middle of the day to see my kids, hang with my kids, and start the business. And it was a grind. I feel your pain, because it's like you're just squeezing it in the pockets of your life when you're starting. And I know for me, sometimes I felt like, gosh, this is like never going to materialize to where I can quit. And then there was this like momentum that eventually picked up, where I was like, I can't afford to work anymore. Like it's literally costing me money to work. And my kids were my kids were about the same age as when you started. Like my daughter was 3, and she was starting to get into like dance and recitals, and I couldn't be there, to be watching. It was breaking my heart, to have that happen. So that the other thing, Catie, I want to go back to this, is you talked about how this all stemmed from one conversation. So were you guys looking at real estate at all prior to that one conversation, or was it just like really that one conversation that was the spark to get you guys going on this investing journey?
So our son was born in the fall of 2018, and he's our oldest one. He's a 6-year-old.
Okay.
at that point, we had started looking into real estate a little bit, but we didn't know anything about it. I remember when he was maybe a month old, we would put him in the car seat and he and I would drive up to Sheboygan because we were already starting to look for things that were just on the MLS.
Yep.
We didn't know anything about the Burr method. We typically only buy properties with the Burr method
Yep.
for rentals. We didn't know anything about that. So every property we looked at up there, we went, we want to put in how much for a 20% down on this? And then do we want to put in money for the repairs that need to be made? So we had started entertaining the idea way back when he was born, but he's kind of hanging out behind me here.
Yeah.
But and then we just kind of, we got busy with parent life. I went back to work after maternity leave. He was still working. So we kind of put it on the back burner, didn't really think about it. But then 3 years later, we moved out to Port Washington, where we are now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had that one conversation with my friend, and it really just got the wheels turning for me. And I went, okay, well, she's got a kid, and now she's had 2 more since then. So she's got 3 kids, and here she's a stay-at-home mom. This is allowing her to be a stay-at-home mom from the cash flow from the rentals. So, she was really building up my confidence with it too. She said, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And she said it can be stressful. It definitely has its ups and downs. You're going to have your good days. You're going to have your bad days. But if you want to be home with your kids, it's definitely something that you want to at least entertain. So I remember coming home from that play date, and I was talking to him about it and said, the kids had a great time. We had a great time. And I mentioned that she does real estate. And I'm like, I think we need to revisit this. Like, there's got to be something here. We need to get back into it. I think this could really help us out.
That's awesome. I think that's such an important point I wanted to go back to. I picked up on that right away because so many people listening to this, you guys are, if you're listening to this and you haven't started yet, this is the conversation. It can be our conversation that I'm having with the Finns right now. That is the spark that drives you. Or it could be you listen to this and then you go talk to somebody else and they tell you about how they're investing in real estate or they're thinking about it. And it's just that little spark that you need to just make that little switch. But look at the ripple effect of that one conversation. Now, Matt, you're home with your kids, homeschooling your kids. So you get to spend way more time than most parents ever get to spend with their kids, good or bad. Some days probably better than others, right? We homeschool as well. I know the struggles are real. And then Catie, you got a big announcement to make because by the time this episode drops, do you want to share what's happening with you?
I am also quitting my job.
Let's go.
Yep. So I'm going to be leaving at the end of April. I always say, I work for a really good employer. They're a great place to be. I'll never say anything different. And I've had a great supervisor. I work with excellent people. I've been where I'm at for 19 years. So my whole working life, like since college.
Yeah.
But now we're at a point with our business where I don't need to be there. And it's kind of like you said with your business, you can't afford to work a full-time job anymore because you're missing so many opportunities.
For sure.
And that's exactly where we're at right now. So leaving as I am leaving in a month is going to allow me to, number one, be home more with our kids, which is something that my heart has been crying for a couple of years now. And I think a lot of parents can relate to that.
Sure.
And especially with the homeschooling, now I will be available to, section things off and tackle half the homeschooling so he doesn't feel responsible for all of it.
Yeah.
And I can also spend the other half of my time when he's taking care of the kids to run the business too. So then we can start ramping everything up and keep on growing as we have been. So it's a big step. Thank you. It's something we've been working at for a few years now, and now it's coming to fruition. So here we are.
Well, what I think is really cool is when you start, at least for me, when I started, like I said, I felt like, man, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, working basically business, just job full time. And when I started, I was like, the hill was so big to climb, right? To go from 0 to 1 felt like I was pushing a rock up the hill. Right. And then once I started getting a few deals, I was like, oh, this isn't so scary. It's actually just, you have your good days and your bad, but like, it's just math really at the end of the day is what it starts boiling down to. And how efficient can I get my contractors? How efficient can I get this? Like, how can I be more competitive on deals? How can I get cheaper money? Like all these kind of questions come in, the problems that you're solving. But then like, once you start getting some momentum with that, you're like, well, I can't really work anymore because this is costing too. And then you're like, boom, before you know it, you're out of your job and you're like, how did this happen? and then you're like, what am I going to do with my time? Like I have all this time now. And then you're like, gosh, I don't have enough time. How do I get more time? Now I got to hire people in my business because I don't have enough time. It's just a crazy thing, but it happened for you guys really quickly. I mean, this is 3 years in the making, and here you guys are. Your lives are completely different.
Yeah, and I think like when you say about the missed opportunities too, I always kept kind of track of that. And just with the missed opportunities, I think we missed out on something between like 20 or 30 homes that we could have acquired. And these were homes that were just like, either put out there or just presented to us by wholesalers or anything like that.
Sure.
And it was not being able to either walk the properties, because I mean, everybody in real estate knows you walk into a hoarder home, you're not going to bring kids into something like that, right?
Yeah,
so we, not having availability to walk the property, or just forgetting about getting back to somebody because you've got 2 little kids that you have to take care of. And then by the time you realize, oh crap, I forgot to respond, the house has already been sold.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice not having to worry about those missed opportunities anymore.
For sure.
Yeah.
How many deals did you say you think you've had to miss?
It was probably easily somewhere between 20 and 30.
Wow.
And that was flips and duplexes. Wow. And granted, it didn't affect our business, because obviously we're still at the spot where we are. But I can only imagine if we would have, I'm not trying to make an excuse, but like if we would have actually had the time to do those things, she probably could have been out, like a year and a half sooner.
It's kind of a catch-22. Like I could have left sooner, so we could have had time to do the properties that we missed. But at the time we were also like, okay, should we do this? Are we ready for both of us to not be there? It's scary. It's scary walking away from a W-2 job.
Yeah, you got the comfort. You got the comfort and the secured paycheck, and you're walking out into the unknown, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I think also we are not, and this is an entirely different conversation to go into, but I don't think that we are taught in our society to do our own thing and to run our own businesses. We're taught to get a job, go the stability route, work until 65, 70, whatever retirement age is going to be in the future. And you just be happy with that.
Yep. And
I think you get a lot of uncertainty and a lot of funny looks from people sometimes when you say, hey, I'm quitting my W-2 job to run my own business, because I think it's just, we're not taught to think that actually works, but it does. It 100% does. You just have to put in the effort.
Most people, it's so far out there to think about that. Like, what you're going to do, you're crazy, right? Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe you're going to do that, right? Then like, once you get around, this is why I think it's the power of networking, the sum of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? We always hear that. That's who you become. And you start getting around and you go to some of the meetups, and like we run the REI Success Club in Green Bay, and there's RIA meetups, and there's caffeine and cash flows, and there's all these opportunities in Wisconsin to meet other people doing this business. And I think like you mentioned it, Catie, she was doing it. You got around somebody who was doing it. She was somebody who was your influence, and you're like, you saw what was possible and what was real from somebody who you knew wasn't faking it. You saw her living her life, and it gave you the confidence to go forward and move forward and get Matt first and take that first step. And now you are following suit, which is super exciting. So that's just a life-changing thing. And again, it comes back to the ripple effect. And like, if you're out here listening to this and you're already somebody who's in a position like where Matt and Catie are going to be, think about that. Like, who in your life could you influence that's in a W-2 that wants out eventually, right? Or maybe not even that. Maybe they just want to have an extra security blanket of owning rentals, and someday down the road, they're going to use that to pay for their kids' college, or they're going to pass it on and legacy wealth and that kind of stuff. Like, you're one conversation away. Don't be shy about what we do in this business. We're creating massive change for people that are, finances is the number one stressor for most families. And you guys out there, if you're having success with this, you have the key to the kingdom. You just got to share it with somebody. You never know how it's going to affect their life and what kind of change. And now it's generational. I mean, you think about that. You got a 6 and a 4-year-old right now that now are going to have mom and dad both home. And most kids in this country are raised by their peers now at school, right? And you guys are choosing to raise your kids and be around them, and they're going to be so much better off for it. And then how does that affect the generation after and the generation? I mean, it's just, I get so much chills when I start thinking about the power of the generational impact of what we do in this business. And it's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's great. So you guys have been doing a lot of flips. You got some rentals going. What was I guess I want to go back to the leaving the job thing. And Matt, you can start there, and then Catie, we'll go to you. What was there a certain dollar amount that you said you had to have saved up before you left, a certain amount of deals in the pipeline before you could leave? Like, what was that conversation? How'd that start? And where did you guys decide, like, this is when it's going to happen?
I think for the flips, so we did the one we had. Our first one was in Wauwatosa, and that was a nice flip, and we made some good money on that one. And we are like, okay, we could do this. And then it came down to just the simple fact of just replacing my income.
Okay.
And that's all we were worried about at the time. We weren't worried about making anything more. We weren't worried about rental properties. We weren't worried about any of that. It was, let's just get enough flips to supplement my normal income at my W-2, and we can do this.
Nice.
And we did it, like I said, on a part-time basis. So that was I think our second flip took care of my W-2 income.
Wow.
We made good money on that one too.
Mhm.
And then after that, we were just like, okay, we can do this. So that's when I cut down. And then we've always kind of had that mindset, because we live comfortably, but we don't like live out of our means either.
Sure.
We don't have massive credit card debt or anything like that. We don't do anything crazy. So we always kind of kept it like, what can we do? If we can make this dollar amount, then we're going to be okay. And we always went on that. And then as soon as we did that, as soon as we knew that we could make that dollar amount, then we started amping up the business. Let's get some rental properties. Let's do this. Because it wasn't until maybe a year after I quit that she was getting burned out. And I'm like, okay, now we need to start really pushing it to get more income so we can both leave. And that's when we really started acquiring the rental properties and started pushing more flips. And I've got
we got a cameo going on. We got a cameo going on back there for those of you listening. We had a little cutie leprechaun in the back. That's right. We're recording on St. Patty's Day, and there was a leprechaun there for sure.
But I think this is the type of business too where you can really determine your own wealth.
Right.
And I'm not criticizing anybody when I say this. Some people just want to go crazy and have like all this stuff, and there is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I think you can really just be comfortable and coast on what you think your comfort level is, and still have what you want.
Right.
And I think that's just the cool thing with real estate is you can go any way that you want and still experience the freedom that you want. You don't need to go so crazy, but you can't be lazy either.
Right.
And so there's like a fine line, and that's really just determined on each individual what they want out of life. Right.
Sure.
So I think this is one of the few businesses where you can pick or choose and be okay as long as you're a go-getter, regardless.
Right. For sure. That's really interesting. My wife and I, Carrie, she now fired herself from our business about a year ago. So she's just stay at home, homeschooling. And I don't say just stay at home. She has the hardest job of all of us. Like I get to come up here and have fun conversations, podcast, all that stuff. She's dealing with the 4 kids and homeschooling and trying to get them to this event and that event and get them involved in the homeschool community and all this kind of stuff. But she fired herself. And then recently we've been having this conversation of like, when do we stop pushing the goalposts, right? Like when is there a point where we're at a certain yearly annual income from passive stuff, right? That's kind of our new goal. It's like, we want to get to a certain number passively every year that we know pretty consistently is going to come in the door, give or take. With rentals, it can change, roofs go out, things break. So there's some fluctuation in there, right? But somewhere in this ballpark, right? And then it allows us to be able to pull back a little bit, right? For a period of time. Our kids are only going to be this age for a certain period of time. Once they're old and grown, like we can go as hard as we want then, and then we can go build the Taj Mahal if we want, or whatever it is. Right. But I think that's cool that you guys are kind of in that same boat. Like there's certain friends I have that are just killing it. I mean, they are killing it and they have great work-life balance, but they're unicorns. A lot of these guys I see that are killing it will either burn out and move out, move down the pretty soon they'll just be gone. You won't hear from them ever again, or something bad will happen to them because they're going too quick and they're not making good decisions. I've been guilty of that too. Like I'm all gas in this relationship, and she's a good mix of gas and brake, but we got to have that balance. I think is something as our kids are getting a little older, we're kind of like, okay, maybe we don't have to go like 900 miles an hour. We can go like 450 and still do pretty good. So, yeah.
And that's where she is. She's kind of the opposite, where she is really all the gas. And I'm kind of like, we don't need that house right now. And she's like, no, yeah, we do.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think what was interesting, I was just running the numbers, Matt, on your thing. Just even if you guys made 20 grand, you hired everything out, you guys made 20 grand on each of those flips, right? Say 30 flips, that's $500,000 of missed opportunity. And I think about that all the time. Like I kind of jokingly give people FOMO at the start of this with the advertisement, but also not, because I believe in this business so much and the ripple effect it can have and how generationally this can impact people. And sometimes like just they're either the issue is they don't have the financing, they don't have the time, they don't have the confidence, they don't have the education, whatever it is that's holding them back. But the problems that we solve in real estate aren't that complicated. It's like just a few levers that you got to pull maybe, and bam, you unlock $500,000 that were coming to your, like, you didn't have to go search these things. Like they were coming to your inbox or people were bringing them to you. Imagine now if you guys are searching for deals too on top of that, because you have time. Like it's just, the opportunities are limitless.
It's mind blowing.
It is. It's really, and I don't like, and I think for, people that are listening to this too, I want to count that as like a loss. It's just it's part of the deal, it just is. I wouldn't sacrifice my time with my kids for anything. So, you kind of do sacrifice not being able to go and see some of those homes. But at the same time, when you do have that time or that freedom to go do those things, you really have to push the pedal to the metal. For sure. You can't sit around and just kind of do whatever you want. So you got to take advantage of the time that you do have to try to make up for those losses.
Yeah. This industry is speed to execution, right? Like you got to be able to pounce quickly, because a good deal is not going to last long, right? Matt, that's why you guys need to find a good wholesaler that'll just send you inboxes every Monday morning with a little video walkthrough, so you don't even have to drive there.
You know anybody who does that?
I feel like
there is one. I think we got one this morning. I'd have to go look again. But
we get texts at like 6:30 every morning from this 920 area code. It's like there's deals coming to us every single week. And all we have to do is analyze them and put in offers. It's like so simple.
I should figure out who those people are. They're really awesome. All right, let's move on.
They're pretty great. We'll give you their contact info.
Oh, great.
We've got a couple deals from them.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, they're pretty legit.
Perfect. All right. There's the shameless plug for the middle of the episode to keep you guys, see if everybody's paying attention here. All right. Anyway. Well, I wanted to go real quick. I want to get into some of the details. So I love the big picture stuff that we just talked about and what you guys are doing and how quickly you guys have done this. Like it's very real. It's very possible. Again, there's challenges to it. Real estate is not a get rich quick thing. It's a hard work and get rich thing. Right. But let's talk about the financing thing. How did you guys finance that first deal? Did you guys have cash saved up, private lenders, hard money lenders? Like what was the financing strategy to get that first one?
We use hard money for everything. Okay. So our first deal too would have been a hard money lender.
Okay. Awesome. Do you guys have a hard money lender? Do you use the same one every time? How did you find the hard money lender? What was the process for that for those listening that are looking to get that first deal?
For our very first one?
Yep.
We heard about the hard money lender for our very first flip through, actually, this goes back to the friend of mine that introduced me, that one spark conversation that I told you about. It was all it take to get us on board with doing this. She had connected us to a realtor friend of hers who we actually ended up buying our next flip from.
Another connection. Look at that. Jeez.
Wow. Yeah. We ended up buying our next flip through him because she introduced us to him. And he's the one who said, oh, if you need a hard money lender, this is, a person that we go through. So that's how we found that lender.
Awesome. Is this a company or is this a private person who lends?
Well, we've used several lenders. Our biggest go-to is Good Faith Lending.
Yeah.
We love them. And
good friends of the show here. Yeah.
Yes. And we do know other hard money lenders in the area that we have used too, more so in the Milwaukee area, because we've done a lot of business down there.
Okay, cool. Very good. Well, a good point there, just to reiterate for the audience, one conversation away. We're going to keep beating this drum because it's right there. And that's why I'm such a big believer in the networking groups when you're starting out. Get there. Everything you need, every question you have, somebody in that room already has the answer and has already been through it and can provide that for you. So that's phenomenal. So everything is hard money lending. Talk about the BRRRR strategy. I'm a huge BRRRR fan. I have a course on the BRRRR strategy. I've built our entire portfolio utilizing the BRRRR strategy. What is your guys' strategy? Like, how do you guys execute the burr? And just tell everybody a little bit about that process for how you guys have done it.
Okay. So I am kind of obsessive about the numbers that we run. So mine is a little bit of a complicated process. Maybe I make it more complicated than I need to.
Sure.
But we look over our deals over and over again before putting in an offer. You know, we're very careful. So we look at a property, right? If we're specifically coming at it from a rental perspective, first of all, we will make sure that the lender that we're going to use is going to be able to finance it at nearly 100% between the rehab and the purchase price.
Okay.
That doesn't always happen. If it doesn't happen, we have to estimate how much money we're going to have to come out of pocket. With the refinancing process, then I look at what the mortgage is going to be. I look at what the estimated rents are going to be. We do have several property managers for all of our rentals. So whoever would be in that area that we would ask them to manage it for, we bounce the rents off of them, take the mortgage, and then we subtract CapEx, maintenance, vacancy, property management fees. And then we look at what's left over after that and see, okay, you know, is this adequate cash flow for what we want? Are we going strictly for cash flow? Over the last couple of years, since we've been working at getting me out of my job, we've been looking at rental income as a way to replace my income. So for us, at least for the last couple of years, it's been all about the cash flow.
Okay.
We have found good deals. We currently have 7 rental properties, and they have been done through the burr method. But we've looked at that saying, okay, is that going to be enough cash flow? We also calculate cash on cash return. But, you know, the nice thing about that's just speaking in terms of cash flow. But if you're just looking at the burr strategy as a whole, the wonderful thing about that is that you can buy a property, you can rehab it and build equity into it that way, get it refinanced, and you have instant equity without really putting in any of your own money, or if you have to, not very much of your own money, if you're doing it right. And that is, when you think about the long-term effect that can have on your business, that is, I don't want to say free money, because, you know, you have to put in the work to make it happen. But essentially that's about as free of money as you can get from anyone.
You're like creating money.
You're creating money. Yeah.
When people say I'm making money, you literally are making money when you do the burr method. Yeah.
It's the coolest thing. And actually the friend of mine, going back to her again, she does things through the burr method. So I learned about that right away from her. And I
need to meet this. I need to meet this friend. Let's get her on the podcast next, because she's going to help a lot of people too, I think.
She's a go-getter. That's awesome. For sure.
And for those of you listening that aren't familiar with the burr, most people listening to this probably are, but it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, if you want to add the extra one in there. And it's a way to recycle money too. You know, Catie, I think you mentioned something there. Sometimes you got to stick some cash into these, right? At least on the initial phase, you're going to have some access to cash. So yesterday I was helping somebody on our team that works for us. She brought capital stacking to me, and I've never really heard of that before, but there's companies out there that'll help you get business credit cards with 0% interest for like 9 to 18 months or whatever it is, and cash advance. You know, you can use the cash advance 0%, and you can use that for that short period of time. Like, that was a really creative option I thought of to access cash for that down payment if you need it from a commercial lender, if you're going the commercial lending route, which is typically going to be cheaper, but they're typically going to require some capital up front, at least for the construction phase, right? Or if you, like you said, if the hard money lender can't quite fund everything, you may have to come with some cash, maybe another option. I personally love HELOCs. That's my favorite tool to use to access capital and use for that short period of time. But whatever way you can get it, that's the part where you got to get a little gritty and dirty sometimes, is figuring out how am I going to get some cash. Private lenders is another great option. Friends and family who have, you know, money sitting in a high yield savings account making maybe 3-4%. You can get it from them for pay them 10%, and they'll be tickled pink. You get some money, and everybody's happy. Everybody's winning in that deal. So yes, I love the burr method. So you can build infinite wealth. Again, kind of Matt, you said it earlier. It's like, it's just how many do you want to do at that point? So that's super exciting. So what does the future look like for you guys? So you're both going to be free from the W-2s.
Yep.
What's the goals? What does this look like? Where we talk to you guys in 12 months from now, where are we going to be?
Oh, you want to answer that one?
That's a good question. Wearing gold hats. I don't know. Just I think just going, like pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
This next coming couple months, and then next year, like I said, and we were talking a little bit off air, we'd like to get a second home in the Door County area. So that's a goal for us.
Yeah.
And just being able to do what we want when we want, live comfortably, and being able to pass it on to our kids. So I don't know. I think we were talking about maybe this year acquiring, what was it, four more rentals?
I think so.
And
Four
then
rentals this year.
I think we want to acquire like 1 or 2 flips a month.
Nice.
So the flips are there already. The rentals have not been, but I'm not too worried about that. They'll come when they come.
One a quarter. One a quarter keeps the doctor away.
Quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do buy all over the state too. So I feel like it's not going to be extremely difficult. We just have to have the time to look, and we're going to have that now. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been interesting all over the state. Is fun.
I was just gonna say, I was about to lead us down to wrapping this until you said that. Now I'm like, oh, we gotta unpack this animal here. Talk about that. Like, how do you guys manage, these projects and rentals all over the state? What's that look like?
You got to have partners you trust. A lot of networking, a lot of phone calls, a lot of video walkthroughs, a couple of actual trips out to the properties. We do have partners in various areas of the state.
Okay.
And, I feel like you definitely have to vet them. Do they know how to, we run our own ARVs, but if it's an area that we're not extremely familiar with, like our own backyard, we're going to ask them to double check our ARVs and make sure that they're right.
Okay.
You just have to make sure you're buying right. You have to trust the people that you're working with. If it's a realtor, contractors, wholesalers, you just have to make sure you're building up a really good team of partners.
Yeah.
And otherwise it's kind of a wing and a prayer.
It is.
If you are,
it really is.
I love the honesty there, because so many people would say, well, we're buttoned up and this is our process. This is what we do. And you guys are just like, we're just kind of taking a flyer here.
Yeah. And I think for like our first time, like, we have a 4-unit in Beloit, and then we have a flip going on in Beloit right now.
Okay.
And for like for those, it was calling 10 electricians and calling 10 plumbers and calling 10 HVAC guys and calling 10 general contractors, or if the general contractors didn't do this, call 10 flooring guys. And then when I would go out to the property, there would literally be like 30 people at the house.
Wow.
Placing quotes. And it's interesting because some guys don't like that,
For sure.
They'll walk in and, I know that guy and he does terrible work or this or that. I'm not listening to any of that, I'm like, hey, I live 3 hours away. This is when I could get you guys in. Give me your quotes. And some guys do, and some guys don't like it and they don't give me their quotes. And it's like, okay, that's all right, but that's
a good
just
filter system.
That's kind of how we do it.
you make it one trip out to that property.
Yeah. And then, I drive out to these properties maybe once every 2 weeks. We'll get video updates from these people. But I usually tend to buy the materials myself because I think it saves a lot of money instead of having those guys buy it.
Sure.
So depending on where it is, sometimes I'll deliver materials myself.
Okay.
And then I get to see progress and things like that. But like kind of what Kate said, it's just sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. You just got to take a chance. But, if you find someone really, really good and they're awesome and their prices are spot on, you take care of those people and they take care of you back.
Yeah,
so
keep them busy. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say for not being right there and not having the properties easily accessible to us, I would say that we're about as buttoned up as you can be.
Yeah.
But I think, anybody, and I'm sure anybody who's ever done investing not in their backyard knows that you sometimes just have to rely on the people who are in that area to give you the information that you need. And so far it's been mostly good, but I do feel it's a little bit riskier than investing in the city that you live in or the county that you live in, for obvious reasons. But again, if you're motivated to do it, and if you're like me, and if you just want to get home, if you need to build up that business volume and you just need to do it now, you're going to buy wherever.
Yeah. So, one of my buddies, he always talks about your intensity level to your goal. Are you as like a 0 is like, don't care if I ever hit it. A 10 is like, I don't care what it takes. I am hitting this goal and we're going to do it in this short time frame. Right. And that dictates, like you said, some people,
Mhm.
they're like, hey, cool. If I retire in 10 years, great. And so I have different advice a lot of times if they're asking me for advice than somebody who's like, I want to get out ASAP. And it's like, okay, we got some work to do. Let's do it quick. All right, here's what we're gonna have to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By this date,
Yep.
boom. Let's kind of get it. So I love that you guys are on the intensity level. You're up there. It sounds like of we're
Level 24 to 26, I would say.
well, it sounds like it worked. That's phenomenal. So that's great. Now, last question before we wrap here, you said partners in other places. Are these people who are actually equity partners in the deal, debt partners in the deal, or are they just people you consider part of your quote unquote team?
For the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are
Yeah.
100% owning these things.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's like realtors that we've vetted and contacted with and had conversations with, so they know exactly what we want or what we're looking for.
Okay.
We might have multiple realtors in certain areas that do that for us.
Okay.
And then we kind of always do the you bring us the deal, you sell it.
Yeah. That's
I know
please
some
don't
people
do it the other way. Please don't do it the other way.
I
if
know
you're
some
listening to
people
this.
I should say I know some people, I've heard of stories of people doing the other way. So we like to take care of the people that take care of us. So
You have to.
Once you tell realtors that, but they usually are they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I can do this. And so they're more inclined to send you stuff. So
yeah,
contractors too. It's like I said, it's just phone calls and vetting and making sure, if you pay those guys right away and you appreciate what they do, they're gonna usually go above and beyond for you. So
that's awesome. That's some great advice there. Yeah, that's I love the ending here. I love where we're wrapping this because that's so important. And again, yes, I've had people when I started doing a lot of flips. There was a friend of mine who was doing flips. Realtor brought him the deal, closed out of Dallas, then he sold with somebody else. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Guess what? Guess who's never getting another deal from that realtor? Yeah, for sure.
Guy.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy. I'm glad. Hey, I'm right here. I'll list with you. Well, that's awesome, guys. We always wrap with a little fun question here. So for you guys, what is your favorite Wisconsin tradition or place to visit in the great state of Wisco?
Oh, Door County, for sure.
By far.
For sure. We love it up there. We love where we live too, but we, like Matt said earlier, we want to buy another home in Door County. I know everybody in the world does, but we've made it our goal to do that. I mean, I think Door County is the most beautiful place to vacation. There's so much to do up there for adults and for kids. And when you've got little kids like us, it's a perfect place to go. Lots of good restaurants. What else?
I would say Door County. Like I was telling you off air, it's hard for me to come home when we're up there, man. It's just like I said, I love the area that we live in. I love Zaki County. It's safe and it's a great place to raise a family, but man, it's hard to come home.
Yeah. Now you don't have to, Max. You're gonna be free. You can make all the choices you want in the world of where you work from, and you can make those same phone calls from Door County. Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks guys for being on here. This was awesome. I got a ton of nuggets out of this, and I know there's a lot of people that are going to love this episode. So if you're listening to this episode and you got some nuggets out of it, please share it. We want to get the word out there. Like we said, that ripple effect is real. Your share on whatever social media channel or a direct link to somebody out there who's interested in real estate could be the difference between them having to work a W-2 and getting the spark like what Catie and Matt got here to get her out of her job and to create this freedom for her family. So appreciate you guys being on, and thanks for everybody listening. This has been another episode of the Wisconsin Investor. We'll see you on the next show.